and in today's tutorial happens to be the continuation of the course PCR271. I'm going to be talking about what it's like, what it was like during the contemporary African society, how war is being managed, and how peace is being sought after. This being said, let's get straight into it. So we have PCR271. Just before we talk about that, let's quickly touch on prominent implements or weapons of war during the pre-colonial African society. Okay, so we mentioned this in our previous class, but we just want to quickly touch on it before we move on. So we have the likes of slug and catapults. Okay, the likes of slug and catapults. The weapons of war during the good evening, Miss Regina. This is Regina. It's great to have you on board. All right. During the ancient Africa society, ancient African society. So we have the likes of slug and catapults. Also, we have the likes of bow and arrow. We also have the likes of dagger and throwing knives, the likes of firearms, right? That was introduced by the Portuguese to the west coast of Africa in the mid 15th century. Please note that that's 1, 2, 3 firearms. All right, firearms. I was introduced by the Portuguese. Introduced by the. Please let's take note of this. By the introduced by the Portuguese, okay, to the west coast of Africa, to the west coast of Africa during the mid 15th century. Okay, so we also have that. We also have spears. All right. Also have war charms. We have spear. We have throwing knives. All right. We also have spear. We have throwing knives. So as well we have what we call club. So these are some of the weapons used during this era. Now, as soon as we are done with this, we also have the drums. We have the war songs. All these are war vehicle like horses. All right, war vehicle, horses. War vehicle, which are the right clearly. Let's quickly talk about the war terminating and conflict resolution. War terminating and conflict resolution. like we established in our previous class, that during this era, all right, the primordial era, the ancient era, that war are not usually encouraged. Okay, um, peace is sought after. Societies go to war when all effort has been tried, that and all effort has failed and proved abortive. Then your last resort is to go to one, default. One party defaulted, or peacemaking. Peacemaking slash negotiation. Okay, peacemaking slash negotiation, so that conflicting issues of conflict can indirectly calm or indirectly die down. All right, issues of marriages from both parties were also used, and in some, now in Senegal we've seen negotiators are often third parties. Senegals often use negotiator. All right, Senegal sees negotiator as a third party ethnic group. Now, so we have that as that. Now, so we have that as that. So as we have seen it here, that we have in cases whereby we've seen default of one party, how war usually ends in the pre-Africa and pre-colonial African society, or the default of one party, or peacemaking or negotiation. And we also have the use of marriage in some areas, and we have that as that. Now we also have, speaking of negotiation, okay, speaking of negotiation, it's also one way we talked about that here. It's also negotiation usually takes place either on a neutral ground or by boundary on the warning of disputing communities. Okay? Neutral, and speaking of the third party, the third party in this sense is not among the conflicting parties, it's a separate party entirely. All right, third party, or at the boundary of the warring or disputing communities. Boundary of the disputing communities. Okay, at the boundary of the disputing community, this is where negotiations take place. So we have that of that. And it says here that in most African or traditional African society, we have goat or cow was killed and jointly eaten alongside local drinks as evidence of end of hostility and seal of agreement. So it even comes with celebration and dining together, just to prove the point that this is an end to hostility. This is an end to disputes, an end to war, and covenant is being sealed. Okay, this is what it looks like in the pre-colonial African society. Says also that peacemaking in this era is an honorable affair. Okay, peacemaking is said to be an honorable affair. Let's take that down. So it says peacemaking is what? an honorable affair. Okay, it's said to be an honorable affair such that the negotiations were channeled towards achieving honorable and peace and fair peace. So that's what makes it honorable. All right, efforts are channeled towards achieving honorable and fair peace. In peacemaking, the fate of the losers, all right, was therefore made less burdensome so that it does not later generate another conflict. All right, you know, definitely in the situation of war, we have the winning side, we have the losing side. So the losing side, their shame is reduced, right? It's not made so obvious. Okay, they are not being insulted or make fun of. Why? Because this might generate another problem in the future. Okay, so as it says here, that the losing side, they are um, it says that in peacemaking process, the fate of the losers are therefore made less burdensome so that it does not later generate another conflict. Okay, so prisoners of war in the fight will be returned. Okay, whether dead or alive, prisoners are returned, whether dead or alive. Okay, in this peacemaking process, prisoners are returned, whether dead or alive. Okay, both slaves, speaking of land, speaking of beasts, everything that might be taken into captivity will be returned. Okay, so we have that as that. Now, only in few areas like Gulf of Benin where losers were emulated. Okay, in some areas the losers are emulated, like Gulf of Benin. Losers losers are emulated. Okay, all right. So we have that as that. Now, please take note of this, that in traditional African society, there was nothing like genocide or ethnic cleansing. Okay, in traditional African society, nothing like what? Genocide. Nothing like. All right, the massacre of a particular race. Unfortunately, all right, unfortunately, in the present time, in the present day, unfortunately, in the present era, okay, all forms of man's inhumanity to man, all right, we witness all forms of what? Man's inhumanity to what? Unfortunately, in present era, we witness all forms of man's inhumanity to, all right, man inhumanity to man. Okay, where we witness genocide, terrorism, the use of weapons of mass destruction and the likes. Okay, unfortunately. So we want to quickly talk about what are the things that in the contemporary African society, we want to quickly consider the reasons of the causes of war according to our material. Okay, so let's pay attention. The causes of war. Now we have in the contemporary African society a march from colonialism in contemporary Africa society. So we have colonialism. Okay, according to our material, we have in contemporary African society, the new causes of war emerged from colonialism and state formation and state unclear traditional boundaries. Okay, unclear traditional boundaries, unclear national boundaries, foreign instigation of states against former colonial masters, natural mineral resources discovery, near borders within territory, integrity of states. All right, discoveries of natural resources. Okay, we have discoveries of natural resources, and we also have near border issues. Let's just put borders. All right, borders issues. So just to mention but a few. So we have that. So we have strategies. Okay, we have strategies of war. Now, under strategies of war, we have war plan. So, just like we mentioned up here, in contemporary African society, these are just to mention but a few, the things that causes war. All right, there's a statement I my attention. It says during the before colonization as their brothers keepers. All right, that's why it was categorically mentioned that there was nothing like genocide or ethnic cleansing. Okay, Africans literally sees themselves as their brothers keepers. All right, they go to war like we made mention, but before they can go to war, they try a lot of strategies to make peace. But nowadays, in the contemporary African society, some of the issues that causes war, all right, colonialism and state formation, unclear traditional boundaries, discoveries of natural resources, and this is very common. Okay, and borders issue. So also we have strategies of war. Let me erase this so that we can get it clearly. So please note that this class is basically what we are treating here is basically for educational purpose. Is not to instigate hatred or fighting to get information. Okay, according to our material in the National Open University of Nigeria. So we have the strategies in the material here. We have strategies of war. All right, something that needs to be considered. So what are these strategies? Now we have war plan. All right, before you go to war, there must be a plan. All right, the war plan, and this involves a lot of strategies, a lot of planning, putting things together. You know, foot soldiers, air strike, water strike, all this. At what point are soldiers to attacks? Where are they mounting their attacks and everything? All these things put together said to be the war, the plan, the war plan. Okay, so we have that as that. So now let's continue. Just a moment. So we have innovation and initiative. Okay, innovation and initiative. Now here, this is where you get to talk to your soldiers, you get to talk to them, you get to motivate, you get to encourage, you get to, all right, expand their understanding about the cause and the intention. All right, yeah, it's more like an eye opener. All right, it's more like a guide, basically for the people that or the soldiers that are involved in this war, as they need to be. All right, they have to carry this initiative that why is this war, and why are we going to this war? All right, and we have that, and also we have motivation and morale. So this is more of like words and speech, you know. And this also has to do with their armories, all right? Their armories, this, okay, you want to war with enough armories and supplies. Speaking of guns and all the things you need to fight, all right? So all this also fall under this initiative and motivation. I'm speaking of motivation, it's more of the word. Okay, now you know, war or no war, in our day-to-day life, we know how important communication is. Right. So in the case of war, communication is also very, very important, as soldiers in the front line has to communicate with their commanders, and communication has to circulate on what the update on the war is. So communication is war. And unlike the African traditional society, war making were, all right, several unsophisticated, all right, during the pre-colonial African society. The traditional war making in African society was fought with unsophisticated weapons and weapons that are less destructive, all right. But in modern days wars, we have highly deadly, destructive, and effective arms and ammunitions. Okay, very highly effective and all right. Naval force we have with the sea power. Okay, and comprises of carrier task force, amphibious task force, surface ships, submarines. All right, here you find submarines, you find amphibious task force, you have surface ships, you have sea-based cruise missiles. All right, we have sea-based cruise missiles and powered submarines. So marines, more naval and sea-based sea power. Then we have the land force that makes use of armored tankers. Armored tankers. Whereby we have armored tanker, whereby we have the likes of AK-47 rifle, highly trained joint military personnel comprising of the Army, Naval, and Air Force. Okay, so we have Now, just like what I said earlier, that before we also have the Air Force, okay, more of jets and the likes and helicopters and the like. So now, like I said the other time, I said it says that the traditional African societies use the troops to establish justice. Okay, this will be okay for us to start in our next class, so that okay, so call it wrap here for today. Hopefully this week we should be calling it a wrap of the course. Thank you very much, everyone. For those of us that might be interested in our private class, we have a lot going down there, especially towards exam time. All right, we have this consistent and continuous class where we get to discuss, we get to emphasize and elaborate on what we have learned on YouTube, and resources like the keynote, TME solutions, exam practice, and exams study, preparation towards exam. A lot of resources I've been giving out to students in the private class just to set you all up for the forthcoming exams. Do also reach out to me if you are interested or you need other resources to also help you in your forthcoming exams on www.tutorial.com. You can get to the website, use the WhatsApp icon button on the top right hand corner, and take you directly to my DM. This being said, it's a wrap for today. I look forward to seeing you all in subsequent tutorials. You have a wonderful evening. Good night.